Hi, everybody. John Farian here with Live Large Universe coming to you live here on Sunday night, October 1st, 2023. And I'm here with my new friend, Lisa Whiteman. How you doing, Lisa?
Good. Hey, John.
Awesome, awesome. What did you do this weekend getting ready for the big show? I mean, I'm sure you did nothing but think about the show all weekend, or did you actually have a life and
All
go do something
weekend.
fun?
No, every moment of my weekend was spent thinking about this show.
Well, I sure hope not. I sure hope not. I hope you had the chance to go. But legitimately, what did you do this weekend? Did you have
It
something
was
fun going on?
it's not a whole lot. No, just enjoyed the nice weather last couple of weeks of it, at least in Canada.
Yep, yep.
And yeah, we just hung out with the kids and Bobby was on an ATV trip, so I had some time to fill and
Very good.
housework to do. Yeah, so nothing really, nothing too exciting. I
Awesome.
can't
Well,
really
I,
emphasize
I
that.
see some of the live viewers are just starting to come in now, which is awesome. So as you guys come in and start watching this live, we need you to do us a big favor is to go into the comments and let us know where you're watching from. And so if your name is Jane Doe or John Doe and you are from Ontario, Canada, or if you're from, Bozeman, Montana or something like that. So the first one I see here is Sodi Clay. So Sodi, good to see you. Appreciate you coming in. If I remember right, you're down in Oregon. Appreciate you guys coming in. I got Matt Thorpe here or Matt Thomas from Thorpe, Washington, who was out on a Jeep run with me earlier today. So him and his son Jackson and I were out Jeeping all day today, getting a little muddy. But as everybody's coming in again, let us know where you're watching from. And for a short minute here, I'm going to do a quick commercial as you guys are coming in and let you know a little bit about all the cool things that are going on. So if you all don't mind going into your own page here and sharing this show out. So go in here to hit the share button, share this to your personal page, share it to your Snowmobile Club pages, share it to, any other snowmobile related pages, anywhere you think, somebody might want to hear a little bit about Lisa's story and the money she's raising for, youth summer camp, as well as trying to make and break the new world record for long distance ladies snowmobiling. We're excited for that. And so if you do, you'll be entered in to win this harvester handsaw from Mountain Lab. So Mountain Lab is sponsoring our show tonight, and they're giving out an amazing prize for one of the lucky winners of the folks who take the time to share the show out, which we're grateful for. And again, go in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. We want to hear from you in the comments. And once you get that shared out, then come back and let's check this out. So this beautiful 2023 Polaris 850 Turbo, all modded out, all custom. This thing is available for you to win through the Avalanche Alliance Sweepstakes. So the Avalanche Alliance Sweepstakes runs from now all the way through December 10th, and then we'll be actually doing the drawing for the winner on December, I think it's 18th if I remember right, on the Snow West Magazine Facebook page. We'll be doing a live stream there similar to this. And again, all the money we raise for the Avalanche Alliance Sweepstakes goes to grants for United States avalanche centers all across the country. There's 22 different avalanche centers across the U.S., and they can all apply for grants, motorized programs that they have. They can apply for grants against the money that we raise. The other part of the money, there's about $30,000 a year that we're going to put into the Live Large University scholarship program at Erie, which has become the largest, not only motorized avalanche scholarship program, but literally the world's largest avalanche scholarship program, period. So pretty happy with that. Really proud of the work that we've done in that program. And again, this Polaris Snowmobile is something that you have a chance to win. That's our grand prize. The next prize is my personal favorite. I got the hat on tonight and everything. Marlon products. So Marlon Sled Deck is based out of British Columbia. They're giving away for the third year in a row. We're going to be giving away one of their sled decks as our next prize. And then after that, we've got a Kids 200. So I bet, Lisa, what do you think? Is there anybody up in Canada that could use a Kids 200 Arctic Cat snowmobile? I bet we could put some
Oh
use to
yeah.
that. Oh, yeah, that's
Oh
awesome.
yeah. We could put some use to that up here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And so that's our next prize. The prize after that we have for Klim. Klim's got a mono suit, a helmet, goggles, boots, avalanche pack. You get this whole gear pack is the next prize. And then the final prize is the ORTOVOX avalanche safety kit. And so, anywhere you're riding out in the mountains, you should be riding with the avalanche safety gear, getting the education, and this ORTOVOX kit's going to be an amazing option for you there too. So let me drop that down too. And Lisa, we are back and we're ready for showtime. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm so excited to have you. This is a perfect example of how the internet works. So
It is.
Lisa was just cruising around on Facebook. Somehow, some way, she bumped into my page that we had some interviews on there, and she dropped a note in the comments that says, "This is cool. If you ever need another guest, let me know." And I think almost immediately, I think if I remember right, I was either on my way to or already at Heydays when I saw your message come in. I think I was on the airplane or something like that, flying over to
Yeah.
Heydays earlier in the month. And I said, hey, busy at the moment, but let's connect next week when I get back from Heydays, and we did. And
Yeah.
it's so amazing to me of how one thing in common, like snowmobiling, brings so many amazing people together. And I'm really
Yeah.
excited to share your story with everybody tonight. So.
Yep. It's a community. And you did respond very quickly. Yep.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome, awesome. So let's let everybody get to know you a little bit. Obviously, give us, your name again officially here. Let us know where you live, maybe what you do, and kind of what you're involved in, and maybe a little bit of how you originally got involved in snowmobiling.
Yeah. So my name's Lisa Whiteman. I live in Ontario. I've been riding for about 22 years now,
Wow.
and I started. I almost wish I could romanticize the story a little bit of how I got into sledding, but I can't. To be able to say my mom and dad were sledders, and we got new sleds every year, and we were outdoorsy, but that just was not the case.
Yep.
I spent about 10 years of my teen years in Bracebridge, and I took my stints just like all the other young people of working on lakes, doing a number of different jobs, housekeeping and bartending and doing landscaping. And one summer that I was doing housekeeping, I met another woman, and we sort of hit it off and became friends pretty quickly. And as it turned out, her husband was a big sledder. So in the wintertime, they asked me, come out and let's go sledding. I was about 17. So first time I ever drove a sled, I drove his sled. It was an Indy 500, 1990 Indy 500. And I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. So it's everything from lake running to trails and a lot of crown land.
Yep.
So, and here I am. Yeah. 22 years later.
That's awesome. And another coincidence that we have together is that my first snowmobile that I bought for myself, like I grew up riding like older, early 70s, 1970s Arctic Cats, my parents' house, and grew up that way in Minnesota, is obviously where I was at. And my very first snowmobile I ever bought for myself. I was 19 years old, finally got a little bit of a decent job, had a little cash in my pocket, burning a hole, you know how that goes when you're a teenager. And
Yep.
I bought a 1995 Polaris Indy 500. So an Indy 500 was my very kind of first personal sled that I ever picked up for
Yep.
myself. So they're awesome
Yeah, they get the
machines.
job done. Oh, they're
Yeah.
perfect machines, especially
Yeah.
to start out. Like if I'd never ever been on a sled in my entire life, so
Yeah.
it was a perfect sled to drive for the first time. And a 500, it's tight and it's quick.
Yeah.
And he was a mechanic too, so it was all tuned up. But his 5-year-old son and I drove that sled for the first time the same winter.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I don't think you go from 22 years ago riding an Indy 500, a couple of times to immediately going to try to break the women's world record for long distance snowmobile riding. And so let's fill
No,
in the gap
likely,
there a little bit, right? Is you
likely
know
not.
exactly. So there's a little bit of an evolution, I'm sure, that's happened. And so talk to me about because a lot of the folks who watch this show, a lot of them are Western mountain riders. There's still a lot of folks on the
Mhm.
East Coast and whatnot too. But just for clarity, for those who may not be super familiar with Ontario, Canada, talk about the type of snowmobiling you and your friends and everybody do up
Mm.
in Ontario. I'm just going to be facetious here a little bit, but is it mountain riding? Is it lake riding? Is it trail riding? Is it like high speed riding? Is it slow twisty trails? Like how cold does it get? Like talk us through a little bit about the snowmobiling experience up in Ontario and kind of a little bit more
Yeah.
of your evolution of getting into snowmobiling and being so passionate about it.
So Ontario, yeah, you really don't get the mountain riding. You can certainly go off trail, and it gets a little deeper if
Yeah.
we've had a good winter. But for the most part, I found the trails here. You're doing tight bush trail and farm field or lake. So
Okay.
if you're putting 200 or 300 kilometers on we talk kilometers here
All
in
good.
a day, you're doing like bush and chasing the taillights
Yep.
bush or your farm field, and depending on the location. Closer, further north, you're crossing lakes, and then it's pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
But speed limits, we have a 50-kilometer-an-hour speed limit here, so we do have to be pretty cautious of that as much as we can. But when I first started riding, it was mostly lake, and then you kind of do whatever you please, and crown land. So when I first started riding my first sled after that stint of learning how to ride on the Indy 500, I bought my first sled at 19. It was 94 XLT 600 Indy, and it was majority lakes and a lot of crown land. And a lot of the friends that I rode with, they had big chunks of property, dozens and dozens of acres that all met up, so we could ride their property for a good day and have little gatherings. So I did that for quite a few years, and I didn't actually get on OFSC, the Ontario Federation, like the trail system in Ontario. I want to say mid 20s. So I had quite a bit of time of doing lakes and off trail and a little
Okay.
deep snow, and then got on the trail system and started riding actual trails. And then snowmobiling just got that much better because they're these bigger, wide open trails.
Yeah.
So trail systems, yeah, it really depends on where you are in Ontario, and they vary a great deal. You know, if you're up in Cochrane, you could go all day long, and they're wide, 2 and 3 groomers wide, long open trails. Where we are, like I said, we're tight bush trail or farm field. And so I've done that for quite a few years. So to go to doing the long distance riding, I've always been one to, want to shatter the glass ceilings, or, do some challenges that are maybe more male dominated, and just that really challenge me beyond my own personal limits. So last year, this past winter, I had gone to the Toronto Snowmobile Show. Okay. And just happened to walk past this booth called 1,000 Mile Challenge. And I thought, oh, what's this? And I stood out front of their booth, didn't talk to them or anything, and Googled it. And I thought, oh, it's just 2 guys that do it. I don't really have a chance of doing that. And it was sort of a thought, but it was like this thought that never went away. I kind of obsessed over it, and I never forgot about it. And I was like eating at me.
How long ago was that again? I know you said it, but it reminded me.
October.
So just this last October, right?
Just this past October.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So
so a year ago, essentially a year ago, right? So
essentially a year ago.
Going into last year's riding season, you just came across a booth at the local snow show, and you're like, no, that's not for me. And then you walked away, and it just stuck in the back of your mind. You're like, that sounds interesting, right?
Yeah. I did not stop thinking about them, because my husband and I came home, and he's who I ride with most of the time. And actually, I majority ride with a lot of men, because I would either ride by myself because my girlfriends don't ride, they're not passionate about it, or I'd ride in groups of guys. And I mean, thankfully, if you ride with all guys, you either keep up or you do not go, because they're waiting for you all day long. So I just learned to keep up and go as quickly as I can, and try to last as long as I can. They obviously outlast me, but so I learned to ride pretty aggressively, quite a few years ago. But So Toronto Snowmobile Show, and I'm out front of this 1,000 Mile booth, obsessed over it. I never stopped thinking about it. So Bobby and I come home, and I said, I wonder if they've ever had an all-female team, like from support crew to drivers to, wouldn't that be something? So I sent them an email and said, hey guys, no idea who I'm even emailing at this point.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We've never had an all-female team. And I got this really pleasant email back that said, no, we haven't, Lisa. Would you like to help us pioneer that? And I love breaking trails. So I said, awesome. Yeah, sure. And she directed me, he or she at the time, directed me to go to the Facebook page. Didn't have Facebook. I didn't even know how to use it, really.
So a year ago, Lisa doesn't have a Facebook page. No. Lisa has, ridden a lot, but, has never even thought about a 1,000-mile ride, and is like just on this whim of like, yeah, I think I want to do this. And like someone said, like, are you interested in doing this? I'm like, why not? Right. So this is awesome. I love this.
Yeah, pretty much. That is exactly how it happened. And in a province I'd never even been to. So I had no idea how long it would take me to get there. I read up on what their expectation was. Come to find out that originally the 1,000 Mile Challenge started as essentially just a dare between 2 friends. 2 guys went out on the trail and they did about 600 miles in one day. And Rudy was one of the first riders and the founder of the 1,000 Mile Challenge, is crazy, clearly crazier or as crazy as I am, and said, I bet you 2 guys could do 1,000 miles in a day. And Danny said, good luck. Have a good night. And they left it at that. And then eventually Rudy said, okay, are we doing this? And he said, all right, let's go. And they went out. They didn't have a Facebook page, didn't do a whole lot of fundraising, nothing. And decided, well, I think we have something here. And they ended up raising almost $20,000 in one day, just the day before. And they were looking for somewhere that they could donate money to. And the only thing they really could come up with was a GoFundMe for somebody's 20-year-old cat that needed like $15,000. So they thought, let's keep looking. And his mom, during the dark days of COVID, she was making masks
Yeah.
and donating them, selling them for a couple bucks, and donating the money to
Yeah.
the one of the camps in New Brunswick, one of
Yeah.
the overnight camps in New Brunswick. So he said, "Well, I bet you that's a good idea. Let's donate all the money to this camp, and we'll send a bunch of kids to camp." So they fundraised, raised almost $20,000, set out, did this 1,000-mile ride, and then they realize they're going to really pioneer something here that can benefit a lot of New Brunswick kids. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
So Rudy goes out and does it a second time
Wow.
because he's off his rocker, and brings his best friend Sam into it, and they
Yeah.
actually create a little fundraising page and profile and create
Yeah.
a logo. And their marketing girl Christiana, who's amazing at it, comes on board.
Yeah.
Started fundraising, and they tripled it, more than tripled it the next year. So
Wow.
then okay, we have a golden goose here, and a lot
Yeah.
of kids are benefiting from it. Let's keep going.
Let me pause you for a second here, because I'm gonna just to give some people some perspective. Like, I'm gonna ask the audience participation time here. Everybody, pay attention. So everybody who's watching right now, if you haven't already, make sure you let us know where you're watching from. Obviously, that's there too. But I want to see everybody, every single person who's watching right now, drop into the comments what is the most miles you've ever traveled on a snowmobile in a single day, ever, like ever, right? And again, there might be one or two exceptions because of this show specifically, where maybe some of Lisa's very close friends maybe have done this 1,000-mile
Yeah,
challenge.
you guys
Okay,
don't
so,
count.
so you can say like, okay, I've done 1,000 miles, but it was part of the challenge. Like, feel free to drop that in. I'd love to know who that is and the people that are there. But outside of that, like the everyday average snowmobiler here, and I'm gonna throw it out there. Like, I don't even know if I remember for sure. But I'm just going to throw it out mine, and as everybody's dropping in the chance there. So I've got somebody dropped in 200 miles here. That's solid. I remember one ride where me and my brother from central Minnesota, we drove our truck and trailer up to Duluth, Minnesota. We literally drove up the North Shore, of Lake Superior. I don't even know how far we made it. If it was up near Grand Marais or something like that, it was pretty far up. And then we cut inland across to the west of northern Minnesota, dropped over there, and then dropped down. Made a big old circle that day. And I want to say that day was 250, 270 miles in one day. And I remember it took us all day long, and I was completely just beat, exhausted, because of course we were hitting some pretty rough trail. It wasn't like a big groomed it was groomed trails, but they were pretty hammered out over the weekend and stuff too. And there's other times up in Michigan where, like, if I ever outdid that ever, like the most I've ever done in one day is like 350 miles. And so I'm going to read some of these numbers here. We got people dropping this in. Again, everybody go in the comments right now. Let us know how many you're doing. So I've got Kyle Mitchell says 200. Sody Clay says 115. Isaac Sample, probably 450 to 500, which is about as hard. That's pretty hardcore right there. I know as Isaac, he's from central Minnesota. Todd Swing, who's in Minnesota, has done a 400-mile day. Todd, I got to know, Todd, where did you do 400 miles in one day? Was it in the UP? Where was it? Let me know. Kevin Carell, I know he's in Bakersfield, California. He's done a trail day one time where he did 350 miles, which is, again, that's a huge day. My buddy Chad Guthrie from Backcountry Recoveries, I think he's out in Utah if I remember right, 250 miles. Matt Thomas is 80 miles. Lisa Whiteman, which is probably your husband watching right now, you told me that he would be on here.
It is,
so was 300 miles, but obviously you've done more than that. Rory Cadett says 350 miles. Most days are about 40 miles for a lot of us here in the mountains. And then Eric Nelson about 250-ish, and
Those
so
there's
a big difference. And I know some people are commenting that are specifically mountain riders, and honestly a 50 to an 80 mile day in the mountains, that's a big day. Like, that's a lot of miles in a big day. And if you do anywhere over 100 miles in a mountain conditions, that's like massive, right? But for the trail riders back west, back east, if in the Midwest or where you're at, 100, 150 miles, sometimes even 200, like, that's actually a good solid day. Like, it's not impossible. You can do it because you're averaging, for, again, miles, not kilometers, but 50 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour. And if you go out, put a solid day in, you're going to rack up some miles. And then for me, like, you get up to, the northern part of, Michigan, so the upper peninsula of Michigan, so, just south of you guys over there, and that's probably more similar to your terrain, but I don't know what the trails are like. But in Michigan, they've got some pretty crazy trails where, like, they're the width of a highway. Like, literally, they're you could drive two cars opposite ways, like a 2-lane highway.
Cochrane's like that.
Yeah, it's like that, where you can get on there and you could do 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, right? Which kilometers per hour, just for the translation, if anybody's curious, is 1.6 kilometers equals 1 mile. And so if someone's doing 100 miles in a day, or 100 kilometers a day, that's 60 miles a day, right?
Yes.
And you can translate it that way. Kind of a
So
way to go.
translated, we did 1,680 kilometers roughly, just a
Okay.
little over that, because we ended up with 1,015 miles.
Wow.
So yeah, somewhere in the range of 1,690.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All right, so let's go back into this. So you've now reached out to these guys. They're talking about pioneering a team, and you're going to go for it. Like, and you made an attempt last winter, right? Like, you talk
Yep.
us through that. Talk us through your last winter's attempt.
So I didn't even really take it that much further even after getting that email, because I wasn't on
Okay.
social media. I had no social media
Yeah.
presence. So I was anticipating they were going to want somebody that was heavily involved and well known, and and it looked cute in a mono suits, and could get out there and really network. And I don't know the first thing about this. So she directed me to go to the Facebook page and see that they had applications. So when the applications were originally opened up, it was for 2 men and 2 women doing the same trail but going opposite directions around the province.
Okay.
And you had to send a video in. You had to come up with a minimum sponsorship of $5,000. And since I work in the power sports industry, so I work for a company called Walker Financial, so I finance anything from snowmobiles to yachts. So I know quite a few people, and I'm a salesperson, so $5,000 was not daunting to me. But a video, I wasn't really familiar with it. I wasn't showy online, so I didn't quite know what to do. So it was New Year's Eve. I finally sent my email in at 12:30 New Year's Eve, day of the cutoff. And I took about 75 videos. And then finally I said, okay, this is it. I don't care how this last one turns out. That's it. Took the video, sent it in. Long story short, I think it was January 11th. They went live. Rudy and Bob Young went live and announced the riders, but I 100% counted myself out. I saw the other 2 girls, they were so cute, and they had like thousands of friends and these big 850 Renegade ski-doos. And so I'm like, I'm on a 14 Indy 600. I'm on a 600, so I've got the oldest
Keep in
machine.
mind, this was last year, right? So we're talking
Yeah.
the season of 2022, 2023, and
Yeah.
you're on what, a 2014 model,
A
right?
2014, yeah.
So it's what,
2014, 10
nine,
years old.
nine, yeah, 9, 10-year-old machine at that
Yeah.
point. And
Yeah.
most people, when they think about running a race like this, you're thinking of like, I better have the latest, greatest technology. And you're
Yeah.
just like, I've got this sled that's 10 years old. Totally will kick butt on
Well,
that.
I knew the 600 engine. If there was one thing I knew, I didn't know if I was going to finish, if I was, going to be safe. I just knew that engine was going to make it. There wasn't a doubt in my mind, because
Yeah.
the 600 engine is bulletproof.
Yeah.
And it did. It made it start to finish. And 121 track 2, which we've come to learn, had rear suspension completely sacked. So I did that entire ride on rear torsion springs.
And
So
how many miles/kilometers again for that run?
1,690. That was the ride
1,690 last year on
last
a
year.
600 short track that was 10 years old with a, you
No
call
rear
it sacked
suspension.
out. For
Yeah.
everybody else, like basically the rear suspension was like all blown out,
None.
basically.
There was-
There was springs in it,
Yeah.
but the shock was pretty much blown out and probably
Yeah.
not holding pressure
Yeah.
anymore.
We recharged it in Ontario and in New Brunswick, but it must have had a leak, because by the time we finished and got home, I don't know if Bobby knew ahead of time and just didn't want to say anything, that you did that entire ride with no rear shock on torsion springs alone. So thank God we had changed the torsion springs, but we, so I sent my application video. They announced it. I was absolutely shocked. I was so shocked that I got chosen. But the one thing that I was very firm on, and I was very clear at the start, that it was important to me to do, with humanitarian efforts. That was always my top priority, and it still remains the number one most important thing to me. If we're going to do anything, especially something as daunting as a 1,000-mile ride, somebody's going to benefit from it.
Yeah.
And they did. We sent 271 kids to camp, raised over 150 grand. So
That's amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing.
so they
simply amazing, right? So
yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. Yeah, I'm pretty happy, and you never know that the kids that get to go, and they are underprivileged, so it might be an opportunity they wouldn't have without us. So that was very important to me. All the suffering, but that made up for it.
yeah.
So they selected us, and I was supposed to ride with one of the other females, Jamie, that was chosen. She was on an
Okay.
850 Renegade, and really good rider. She was fast. She dusted me when we went out to New Brunswick, and I thought, okay, I'm with a good solid rider, and some changes had to be made, and she had some other obligations and whatnot. So she gracefully gave her position to Jeffrey, who I did end up doing the ride with, and is an incredible person. He navigated every mile of that ride, got us safely start to finish, and he said, we started this together, we're going to finish together.
That's amazing.
So we set out, and the most important part about the ride was to ensure we were in a location that was going to bring in the most amount of people, because at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about sending kids to camp. So we want to make sure we were the most accessible to bring in the most amount of people so that we could send the maximum amount of kids to camp. So we decided to leave from the Ramada in Fredericton, and we were due to leave at 5:00. And what I think we forget, and a lot of people forget, is that we didn't leave until 5:00. So we were up at normal 8:30 in the morning that morning. So we were up from 8:30, got our stuff together, did the daunting ride to Fredericton, and then we didn't start riding until 5:00. So we were actually, by the time 24 hours later, now we're over 30 hours.
Yeah, 30 to 40 hours, somewhere in there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, in some of our, because, for everybody who's never done this show before, we always do kind of a pre-discussion, a pre-interview, if you will, just kind of, offline. And I was asking Lisa about some of it. And one of the things you shared with me that I think I'd love to have you share now is, that ride and what it's like of, physically, like on your body, like what does it do to you physically? Let's start there, but then talk about the mental and emotional things that you go through, whether it be, you call it stress, whether you call it exhaustion, whatever it is. But
you do go through a lot.
Yeah, there was just,
I think mentally,
go ahead.
The mental piece of it, I honestly, at least for me, I can't speak for the guys. For me, was really what did it, because younger women on bigger machines, are their sleds and them more equipped for it? Maybe. But I know, like, are you going to keep going through a blinding 12.5-hour blinding snowstorm, or are you going to keep riding when your hands go numb, and you're sick to your, like, can you mentally keep doing that when there's really no reason for you to do that? So to have the mental grit and to push yourself beyond like a mental limit you didn't even know was capable was really it. So we left at 5:00, and I remember we had my sled, and Jeffrey started the ride on an 850 Assault, 2023 Assault, and we pulled the two sleds out. And I've done some challenging things, and I've certainly put myself in some challenging situations. And we had unloaded them, and Bobby was off putting stuff together and putting one of our spotlights. And I stood there staring at those sleds, and I'm usually pretty stoic. I'm not a very emotional person. And I cried harder than I think I ever have, because I said to him, I can't believe what I'm just about to do. Like, I've got myself into some crazy stuff before. This is insane, Bobby. Like, how am I going to do that? And he said, oh, dude, it's a snowmobile ride with one of your buddies. It's all it is. You've been riding for years. You'll be fine. So we leave the Ramada, and we leave the boys, Justin and Miles. We go right, they go left. So we'll see you at the 500. And it was smooth sailing. The trails were amazing.
Yeah.
They were fast. We were keeping our pace up. Everything was perfect. Jeffrey pulls to the side of the road, side of the trail. And I pulled up beside him, and none of our helmet comms were functional. So we had to kick it old school and open up and scream at each other over the engine. I said, what's up? And he said, I lost a skid bolt. So for a minute I did the math, and they're not getting out of there. So it was skipping anytime he gave it gas. So and he said, and the sled died. I think it blew up. So I said, does it start? And he tried to start it, wouldn't start. We looked at each other, and okay, grab your shit, let's go. And he unhooked and took the GPS, because we had to keep this GPS operating. This was our lifeline. It had our beacon. Everyone was tuned in. It was
tracking the miles, right? Yeah.
We're tracking miles. So he gets on, and I knew I kept the speeds up, because one corner crept up on me, because it's a whiteout, and he tagged into the back of me. So we laughed it off and kept going, get to the first fuel stop, and there's no truck and trailer. So Jeffrey, I hadn't even stopped moving. Jeffrey was off and asked the guys that were sitting there, where's the truck? And they said, it's coming, man, it's coming. They're just right up the street, because everybody's tuned in.
Wow.
So everybody's watching. And not only are they watching our GPS beacons, but the support crew is logging in and giving updates that, Team Polaris has their first breakdown.
Yeah.
So truck finally pulls up. Jeffrey gets the sled unloaded, and he ended up getting his backup sled, which was another 600. He had 600, 121 track as well, Polaris. So that's what we then continued on and finished it on. I didn't, the mental grit didn't really kick in for me. We got to our second fuel stop.
Yeah.
And Bobby had to miss that one, which is a little scary for him because his wife's out there in this blizzard. And we pulled into the parking lot, and I remember looking down at everybody's feet, and there was a lot of snow. Like there was inches of snow. And I was thinking, holy, that's a lot of snow. And these guys have been here tramping this down for a while. So in my mind, that's when shit got real with the weather. And I thought, okay, that's a lot of snow. But here we go. So we leave that fuel stop, and now we're in the bush. So physically at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. We hadn't quite got to our second fuel stop just yet. And one of the biggest challenges I had on my body was when we were crossing the Miramichi River. So it's an absolute whiteout blizzard. The only thing I can see is this bite harder safety light Jeffrey's got on the back. We all did, but Jeffrey has on the back of his helmet, and is the red strip. For anyone that's not familiar, it goes on the cross the back of your helmet. Okay. All I could see, because it comes up higher than the snow drift, the drifting dust, snow, and the snow dust. Yep. And then when he turned his head, I could see the blue light. So we were crossing the river, and river's there, for anyone that doesn't know, it's crossing a lake. Like, you're crossing a massive body of water. It's not what you would normally think of a river. And I see his helmet light like very violently bounce. So, oh no, he's hit something, and he's fine. He keeps going, and then I see his head turn blue. So he's turning to see how close I am, and then I hit it. And the sled was like a spring, so it almost bucked me off my sled. But then I stood up to absorb the impact, and the sled came back up and jarred into me like a spring, right? Just recoiled like a spring, jarred my back. And I honestly, I thought I had either broke my back or my pelvis. And that was, we hadn't even hit our second fuel stop. So we were like 150 miles in. So I did the whole ride thinking, holy shit, if I hurt myself, because I really, really bruised my back. So we continue on. So physically, that was one of the biggest challenges that I had from the start. And it was pretty sore right up until about 700 or 800 miles. That was really it. And then we continue on, we're on the trail, we get to our second fuel stop, and they say there's moose on the trails. And it's still a whiteout. There's moose on the trail. So they serpentine. We were at Serpentine. We got our fuel, and they said, there's moose on the trail. So the next one. So
are these friendly moose, or are these the one that want to kill you moose?
Oh, that's the thing. I mean,
you just don't know.
I've seen Algonquin moose, and they're massive.
Oh yeah.
And I've never seen one on the trail. I saw the cattle mark.
They can get very aggressive.
They do.
They can be. They do. Like, not always, but a lot of. I've seen videos
some nasty videos. Yeah.
People come up and they'll kick them, they'll charge them, like all kinds of things. It's crazy.
And I think a lot of that our goal when it came to moose, our goal was certainly our safety, prioritizing our safety, but also prioritizing the welfare of the animals. Because if you push a moose that's on a trail, I learned very quickly, and it was given to me with deadly importance, you do not push a moose. So the 1,000-mile challenge held safety and respecting the wildlife.
Give them space,
the fullest. Give them space. Don't chase them, because for anyone that doesn't know, and I didn't until I went to New Brunswick, if you chase a moose down a trail, it overexerts itself. And since they're these great big bumbly animals, they'll have heart attacks and die. Wow. So we respected the wildlife. We did not push them, and nor was that even an option. We were going to forfeit time if we had to. Eventually, so we see the cattle tracks, and they just look like big cow hoofs on the trails. So we slow down, and we see the first two. Thankfully, they get off the trail pretty quick, and we're still in a whiteout, so we're being pretty careful. And then we get going. We're going not too long, and then here's the second two. So the one of the scarier moments of that encounter, we were moving along, and we were giving them as much space, and I was sort of following Jeffrey's lead, and we were, I'm behind him, and we were staying pretty close and very gradually moving up, and as the moose would move, and one goes off to the trail to the right, because the moose, they'll take the path less traveled or easiest traveled, right? And they get out of the deep snow. So it leaves one moose on the trail. And I don't know if this is a mother and a child. So I'm looking behind me, expecting mama to come charging behind me. So I keep looking around for where this other moose went. Yeah. And we got far down the trail. And the other one finally goes off to the left into the deep snow. So we think, okay, we're good. Jeffrey goes. This moose turns back around and comes back out on the trail at me. Oh, no. And now I'm like, oh, no. So Jeffrey sees what's happened. He doesn't just stay where he is. He turns his sled around, and now it's Jeffrey and I facing each other, headlight to headlight, and this moose
With a
in
moose in the
between us.
middle. Oh no.
And I keep backing up and backing up. I backed up about 10, 15, 20 feet as best you can on a sled.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's it is what it is. I hope I'm going to duck behind my sled, and I hope you don't stomp my headlight out, because I'm in a blizzard in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And nobody's coming back here to get me. So I backed up, and if I backed up a little bit, my headlight would light up. So it would turn and go to Jeffrey, and then he would light up a little bit, come back. Finally, it gets off the trail and dips to the right, and away we go.
There you go.
And and then no more moose. Apparently there were 2 more, but I didn't see those ones, so caused us no problem. But it's the physicality of it. I didn't start getting into the hurt locker until it was about 2:00 in the morning. We had left Atlantic Coast, and I felt really good. I skidded out sideways going down a trail. We got turned around, and we did a loop in the parking lot before getting on the proper trail, had a laugh. I was feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was about 45 minutes to an hour that I was starting to feel, I like 400 miles, I was getting tired. And then I got really tired and hit a wall. And for that, of the whole 1,015 miles, that hour to hour and a half was probably the darkest moment I hit. And I thought about nothing other than quitting. And I was thinking, like, Lisa, how in the hell did you get yourself
in this situation?
In this situation. I was so tired. It was so dark. There was so much snow, and it was just like the snow was relentless.
Yeah, it's not like an event like this could just be like sunshine and roses and groomed and easy trails.
No.
It has to be a blizzard, and it has to have killer moose.
Yeah, and the trails, even though we had got a pile of snow, some of the snowmobile shacks out there that do the grooming, they opted out of grooming for the 1,000 miles. So we were on kind of leftover trails that now have, in some cases, I don't know, 2 feet of snow on them. We went through Christmas Mountains. That's exactly what it looks like. Yeah. And we were 2 feet of snow. We were breaking trail.
Wow.
But we left Atlantic Coast, and that's when I really started to feel it. Yeah. There was one time I was going to be sick, so I pulled over as quickly as I could because I could feel the flush, and I thought, oh shit, if I start sweating in this suit, so I unzipped everything and unzipped all the flaps on my coat to let as much air in, so I didn't start heating up. And I thought about nothing other than quitting, and like going over and over, like, what can you do? Okay, Bobby's going to come. He's going to come out and get you, but you're going to be sitting like an idiot on the side of the trail for 2 hours. And Jeffrey,
you might as well keep riding, right?
Yeah, like Jeffrey will tow me, but then you're sitting on your sled like an idiot, steering it out of the bush. Like, no one's coming, Lisa. Nobody's coming. You got to
suck
that's
it up,
dude. Yep. You got to keep going. And I kept going and got out of the bush. And there was one moment we were coming through hydro lines, and I was really sore, and my hands were starting to get sore at that point, and my knees were really sore. And we're going through the hydro line, and Jeffrey's light was start kind of fading away and getting further away and further away. And at no point was I worried about getting left behind, but I just knew if that light was too far ahead of me, I was falling behind, and which meant that I'm not going to get this done. And that was my biggest fear. So going through the hydro lines, all I could think of is that there are so many people that think I can't do this, and you can't let that happen. I could not allow someone to be right about me that I wasn't going to be able to do something. And Jeffrey pulls to the side of the trail, and I pulled up beside him, and he's pretty quiet. And he takes his phone out, and he took a picture of the GPS, and he turned to me and said, as a woman, honest, you just rode 500 miles in 12 and a half hours. And I'm just staring at him. And I all I could say to him was, dude, I am so effing wrecked right now. And then we laughed and we kept going. And I thought, oh my God, I'm only halfway.
Yeah.
And I was in shock. I'm only halfway, and I was wrecked 50, 60 miles ago.
Wow.
So we had about another 15 miles somewhere in there. It was about 4:00, 4:30, somewhere in the morning. And we pulled up to Chalet, or the Restigouche Clubhouse. And that was when I hit the wall, and I saw Jeffrey flop to the ground laying down, and I sat down, and I didn't know if I needed to sit down, stand up, get off my sled, quit. I just was laying on the ground, and I said, Bobby, that's it. I'm absolutely done. You got to go in. Like, I can't ride. I think I broke my back. Like, you got to go in. And I could see the look of shock on his face. And he's like, no, dude, I can't ride for you. You got to finish this. And I didn't know what I needed. I was sick to my stomach. I don't know if I need something to eat or like to not do this. Like I was so in shock at how hard it was that I didn't see it coming, and my
Wow.
knees were sore. And he took me to the side, and because I was kind of out of it, looking at people that were trying to do lives and hand me stuff, and he
Yeah.
took me to the side, and I told him before the ride started, you have to remind me that if I quit now, I like it's going to kill me for the next 10 years of my life. You have to remind me of that. So he said to me, Lisa, if you quit now, the pain of you quitting is going to kill you far more for the rest of your life than what you're feeling right now. So I got up and I walked back over to my sled, and Rudy was standing there in a t-shirt, a Davy Crockett hat, and he's fueling my sled up. And looking pretty nervous too. Everyone was kind of looking at me, wondering what is going to happen here. And he said, "Don't worry, Lisa. Daylight's coming. You're going to get your second win here." And I was still just like, "Oh my God, how can I get myself out of this? This is
Yeah.
crazy." And I heard the other team was there. Justin's on his 1100 turbo, loud. He's got a stovepipe out the side of it, and Miles is on his Mach triple, super loud. So I hear their sleds start, because now we're at the halfway point, and I see them drive across the parking lot. I heard the turbo go, and then the Mach, and then the Arctic Cat go, and they hit the trail I just came off of. And I remember thinking, oh no, they're here doing a thing, and I'm doing the same thing, and all these people are here to help us do this. That's it. I got to go. And I grabbed my helmet and pulled it on, and so I don't know, away we went. And I still can't believe I got back on the sled, because I was beyond done. And as soon as daylight came out, second wind kicked in.
Wow.
And
That's amazing.
we were flying.
Yeah.
And so that was one of our fastest fuel legs. As soon as the daylight came, I think that was one of our fastest fuel legs was that ride. So fast that when we pulled in, they were watching the GPS, and they thought Jeffrey had left me. So they thought, oh, Jeffrey, he must have left Lisa, because she was just dying on the last ride. Couldn't even, had no idea what was going on.
And now
So
you're
they thought, oh,
hauling butt across the lake, right? Yeah.
Yes, and they came running out, and like, oh my God, your fuel leg, that was crazy. I can't believe you drove that fast. And I'm like, what is going on? What is happening now? And Bobby said, Lisa, that was crazy. That was like, you guys were doing like 77 miles on average that whole time, or 79, somewhere in there. Like we were flying. And feeling pretty good. So I had a little bit of soup, and we fueled up. That was at the Chalet Restigouche. Chalet Restigouche was where we were. It was the clubhouse that we were at before that. And I left pumped. I was so excited, and we did that fuel leg. Great, we'll keep this up, and I think we got this. And then
pause you for a second, because your friend Kyle Mitchell here just dropped something in the comments, and I remember in our pre-discussion you shared this with me, and I think it's the perfect time to drop it in. So let's talk about this for a minute. Kyle types, that's where the letter dangle was born, at the halfway mark, right? And so tell us,
right.
It's a great time to segue into what happened in the whole letter dangle thing, and then your clothing company that's come about because of it. So let's shift the gears a little bit, go to that, and then we'll come back to the rest of the story here again. So
it's actually the original dangle man is my husband's best friend.
Okay.
And he just has this like thing that he does when he's got his snowmobile gloves on, and he'll dangle at you on the trail. And it's just a funny thing that's in this group of guys. So we're going to dangle, and it's subjective. And I usually know that if I dangle at Bobby, or if somebody, then I know that now we're aggressively chasing taillights for the next concession or a little bit. So
because in the mountain riding world, the term let it dangle, or do you dangle, is kind of a phrase about like, hey, you're getting after it in the trees and you're side hilling and you're kind of tearing it up. But in your guys' riding, it basically means aggressive riding, and you're almost racing down the trails type of thing, like let her dangle, right? It's kind of the concept.
We're gonna dangle these next couple of K. So Bobby, he was as worried as I was on the ride. So when I'd leave a fuel stop, I would dangle at him, and Jeffrey and Morgan kind of picked it up a little bit, because it's hard to give a thumbs up, and I wear men's gloves. It's hard to give a thumbs up, so I just dangle at him, and now I'm good.
Is it like this? Is it let her dangle?
Yeah. And then so when we rolled in to that fuel stop Kyle's talking about, Jeffrey had, the snow was a little bit creamy, so he slid one corner. So I stopped and let him catch up and come back on the trail. So when I pulled in, I said to him, "You let her dangle in that corner a little too hard." And and then it just kind of caught on. So that's when they had started dangling. And my biggest goal with, so I thought, okay, you know, I could create some gear here with Let Her Dangle. Because people were even doing it like strangers, doing it in the street.
That's amazing.
Because it had picked up. And we rolled into one fuel stop. There must have been 40 people doing it back to me. So I created LED, which is Let Her Dangle, because it was kind of the catchphrase. And and my hope is to be busy enough that I can keep raising money to send kids to camp year round. And I mean, my ultimate goal in life is to be financially stable enough so that I can be just a full-time volunteer and do things that actually make me happy. You know, maybe one day I can open a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen, or continue sending 270 plus kids every single year on my own, and pioneer new organizations to help people, because
awesome.
that's always it's always been important to me. It's always what I've been passionate about. So that was kind of my hope. So I created LED, and a portion of the sales goes back to the 1,000-mile challenge. And so far it's been pretty successful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Congrats. So let's wrap up the last year story here. So you made it over halfway. You got the daylight. You got your second win. Yep. Give us the accelerated version of and the key highlights of what was from last year, and then I want to talk about like what do you got planned for this coming season and how can people help you.
Yeah. So I started crashing after a couple hours after daylight. Then I was getting really tired, and
wow. Okay.
I was sore, and I had slowed down quite a bit. And now that it had just snowed for like 15 hours or 12 and a half hours, some trails weren't groomed before that. And then a whole bunch of sledders went on during the day, beautiful sunny New Brunswick day. So the trails were beat. They
all
were
whooped out.
The trails were horrible, and it was moguls and tight bush trails. And then even the areas that were like Moose Valley that are normally very long, wide, fast trails, they were like super hard, really bumpy. So we got beat up through the day. So I finally succumbed to no suspension and a 10-year-old machine on beat trails that hadn't been groomed. And I got pretty tired, but the highlight of the day was just all the support that came in. With every fuel stop, I was absolutely over it. Like I wanted out, and I finally stopped feeling sorry for myself when we stopped, and they came over and told me. I think I was sitting on the ground feeling sorry for myself, rubbing my knees, and they came over and said, "Lisa, you have to finish now." A lady went online and donated $25 and said, "Everybody go on and donate $25 for Lisa." And then I think she said, "We're up to like $5,000. So I thought, holy, there's so many women that are like, "Lisa, this is crazy. You have to finish." There was no, I wouldn't have quit after that. And we kept going. We went over time. So we did go over time. We hit 890 miles in 24 hours.
Wow.
And we kept riding for another 3 hours. To finish it up.
You did finish the full 1,000, but just not in the time window.
Yeah. So we did 27 hours.
Can I pause you for a minute here too? Because like this show, like the people who've watched it regularly know that I love tying in, just life lessons, like, things of inspiration, all that stuff too. And there's something you've talked about here that I want to really highlight for everybody, which is that what a human being, in your case, you, maybe me some days, all these people who are watching, all of us. So think about this for a minute, is that we have the ability to be more successful than we believe we can be if we have people around us that believe in us and support us and lift us up and encourage us, right? And I want everybody to think about that. Like, Lisa here has told, I'm going to cry almost. This is like, it makes me get emotional because I think of like life in general, right? Is this idea of what are we as human beings capable of? It might be, on a scale of 1 to 10, we might be capable of a 10 if we're lucky in a perfect day. But the reality is if we have people around us that are bringing us down, we might only achieve a 5 that day, right? But in a situation like you, Ant, you gave, I can tell from the story, way more than 100%. And so you didn't give a 10 that day. You gave a 15, an 18. You went like 2 to 3 times more than what you believed you were capable with, because you had so many people lifting you up, pulling you along, encouraging you.
Yeah.
You have people around you that were supporting you. And
Yeah.
there's somebody who's here watching today, and I just want to say that out loud because I want to say that person that we were on the phone call earlier today as I was driving home, people encouraging you and supporting you and what you're going to go chase down is going to help you achieve more than you know you're capable of doing. And so believe in yourself, surround yourself with people that are there too. And this
Mm-hmm.
is what this show is all about. It's like, for those who haven't ever watched this show before and it's your first time, live large. What I tell everybody is live life to the fullest, make the most of every single day, and make a difference to others, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so live large, right? It's like live large universe. This is this world that we're in. We're like, man, we're all here to help each other move forward, to do the best we can do. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so blessed that you stumbled across my Facebook page and saw a couple of videos and reached out because these are the kind of stories that I live for. Like this is what the show is all about, is really what we're doing tonight, is sharing these stories of, overcoming obstacles that we never believed we could overcome and helping other
Mm-hmm.
people at the same time, and just doing good in the world. So God bless you, Lisa. I appreciate what you've done so far and what you're doing. And keep up the good fight. And everybody around her that's supporting her, God bless all of you guys for the same. And and don't forget, we can all do this for each other all the time. This can be your life every single day. So thanks for letting me
Mm-hmm.
insert my little emotional like commercial there, but like it was too perfect of a setup to be able to tie
Yeah.
this all together. It's so
Yeah.
meaningful to be able to do these kind of things.
It's
So
true. It's absolutely
yeah,
true. I've told Bobby plenty of times, if I was with a group of people that didn't really care, like they
yeah,
just needed a ride to be done. They didn't
you
care
like
whether it was
gave
me
up
or
at
somebody
300
else.
miles or 500 miles, right?
I I absolutely would have been out at 500 if Bobby wasn't there. Like just speaking to my soul,
Yeah,
absolutely, I would have been out. I there was no part of me that wanted to continue going. So having him speak to the part of you, the call it competitive or call it the strength that's there. He knew how hard he could mentally push me,
yeah.
and yeah, it does. It makes you so emotional.
Well, let me
Um,
let you be emotional for a minute while I add in a little comment here from your
yeah,
buddy Rudy Fowler, right? Your buddy Rudy is on here watching and cheering you on,
yeah,
and he says in the history of the 1,000 Mile Challenge, no one, in exclamation points, no one here, like capitals, put
yeah,
down what Lisa put down ever. And by saying, and I'm
yeah.
going to translate for you because I know every region of the country has its own little lingo. When he says put down, what he means is like nobody has ever pushed as hard as you have ever pushed in the history of the challenge ever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's amazing.
yeah.
So thank you, Rudy, for those comments. I've
Oh
included them
yeah.
in the show here a little bit, and
Yeah, and and speaking to that sort of thing, these sorts of things that you never saw coming, and you never saw, you never even for a second thought that it could be you or it could happen for you,
yeah,
or that you were capable of it. I knew
yeah,
that I was a mental warrior, but physically, I had no idea whether I could
yeah,
do it. They change your life.
yeah.
They change it. Rudy's one of my biggest cheerleaders, and him and the event in Christiana, they changed my life. It truly has, and
That's awesome.
it's helped me see what I truly am capable of,
Yeah,
and the impact that you can make on other
yeah.
people's lives.
Well, and everybody who's watching, one more time, again, if you haven't already, encourage you to share this out, right? Share that. It's as simple as sharing it on your personal page. Somebody new might see it that maybe never would have seen it. And it's like these stories are, yeah, they're snowmobiling, they're snowmobile related. And so, like, the snowmobile audience is really who, we're our targeting. But the reality is, a story like this is so meaningful to every human being on earth when they think of
Yeah.
like the ability to again, you could replace snowmobiling with running or bicycling or motorcycling or anything in people's lives that they're passionate about, that they want to push themselves beyond what they believe they're capable of, and to be on the other side of it, and to be like the fact that even the 24 hours was done, and the fact that you just kept
Hmm.
going. Like, I don't
Yeah.
give a crap what the clock says. I'm gonna
Yeah.
hit 1,000 miles, right?
Oh,
Like
we
that
had to
that
finish.
kind of,
Yeah,
yeah, that kind of fortitude and
we
that
had to finish.
persistence, is just amazing. And these are
Yeah.
the kind of things that amazing stories are made of, and here we are telling it today. So I'm so grateful for you to be here. So
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so talk
Um,
about, if you're ready. I mean, you tell me if there's
yep.
anything else you want to share about last year, but I really want you to talk about now, this year, what's planned, the dates, how people can support you. Like somebody already has gone in here and said, hey, we should have a, I can't remember the word. Let me see if I can go back up and find it here. They said, let me find the comment. Here it says, let's start a pledge per mile. I'll start 10 cents per mile. And so Michael Van Wyck, who's been a previous guest on the show and, is an amazing guy too. He's a big advocate of sober sledding. He actually has a Facebook page and an avocation of no drinking
Oh,
while
okay.
riding, right? And so,
Yep.
Sober Sledders is the name of his page. We've done a show before together,
Yep.
and he's interested in helping you out. And so regardless of what he's saying
Awesome.
here, let's
Yep.
get into what you're doing this year and how people can help you. So,
Yeah. So I'm still going to have a pretty big involvement with the 1,000 Mile Challenge. There's the few final details that's are going to be wrapped up, but we're going to be at the Toronto show, and by then we'll have a pretty crisp, clear understanding of exactly what we're going to do for the 1,000 Mile. And but I thought since we got so close since I got so close during the 1,000 Mile to a world record. Why don't I try to break it or set a new one? So with sort of the same theme, it's going to be to raise money to send kids to camp. All the money is going to be donated to the 1,000 Mile Challenge, kids camping charity, and same rules apply. So it's 24 hours, many miles I can lay down. At one point, my ego certainly got a little bit involved, and I thought, if I can't lay those miles down, then what's the point? But if you lay those miles down and one kid gets to go to camp, and that particular kid maybe meets their best friend, and they had
mm-hmm.
nobody before that, it's well worth it. So. Location and date. It'll be the end of February. Location. I don't know that I'm at liberty to announce just yet. It's insane. Be on a racetrack, and I'll be circling about 100 acres there, circling to lay down as many miles as possible. But there'll be lots of space for people to come and promote all their stuff or their companies, so we can get as many people as
hopefully
we can involved.
less moose and less moguls would be nice too, probably, right?
Yeah. I'm not saying for a second that it's going to be easy, but with some obstacles, knowing that there's nobody on the trail, there's going to be no wildlife on the trail, and the crews can clear the moguls for me. Yeah, it'll be a lot easier, and hopefully we send. My personal goal is $50,000 for that. And
Awesome.
that's going to send a pile of kids to camp, and it's borderless. So certainly, if there's any families that want to go on and apply and throw their name in to have their kids or caregivers, grandparents to send kids to camp, I want it to be borderless. So all across Canada.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, anything else you want to share about this upcoming season and what's going on, or how do you want to wrap this up? Because I think we've told most of our story now. And
I think that pretty much sums up what's going to be this summer. I have a lot of sponsors I'm pretty thankful that have come on board. And so definitely go online, follow the 1,000 Mile Challenge. It's an incredibly entertaining, really exciting group to be a part of. There's always really good content. Lots of announcements going to be coming up. So it's the 1,000 Mile Challenge. It'll be 2024. So it's the 4th annual. So make sure you go on and follow that.
Awesome.
Follow LED riding, and any exactly sharing and supporting. It goes a long way, even if you're just sharing a post. So that certainly helps, because it's a lot of really good people that have really good causes that we're putting all this time to.
I mean, literally, if everybody here who watches this, and then the people who watch this after they've shared it, watch this, and everybody keeps sharing this out, we're going to have all kinds of exposure for you. And let's see how many people we can get to watch this show over the next few weeks, and as we go into the season here, and have some fun with that. Your friend, and I'm hoping I'm saying her name right, is it Christiana or Christiana? Christiana May has been dropping all kinds of different links in here with information, all the different pages you're talking about, the 1,000 Mile page. So we got all the links in here that everybody needs to know. And then once we're done with the show here, I'll go back here and I'll tag some, you and some of the things that are going on with this here too. And you can do the same. Go into the comments, interact with everybody, drop in any links that you want to add in there too, and feel free to share this out anywhere that you can. Leverage it to add to what you guys are doing, because I'm so happy that we did this.
It's we're kind of the vessel doing it, but that's at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about the amount of kids that get to go and be supportive and supported. And if you go on and even just read a few of the stories from some of the kids that have got to go, it's I feel really fortunate that I was able to be a part of the experience and help them, that I was given this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I think, the things that motivate me, I think I can tell motivate you too. It's this idea of supporting something and being part of something bigger than yourself, right? It's like the idea that, like, if you were doing this ride for you, you probably wouldn't do it, right? Like, let's be honest.
Probably not.
Yeah, you
No,
probably wouldn't do it. Like, but
no.
the idea that you know that you can do this, raise a bunch of money for a nonprofit, to help bring underprivileged children to summer camp. And it was something
Mhm.
that you shared with me earlier in the show too. And I don't know if you even want to touch on this for a little bit, but like, you shared with me your own childhood, your own experience.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
that was one of the things you
Hmm.
told me that like you felt like it was a big hole in your childhood, like the ability not to go to summer camp when your
Hmm.
friends were all going off to summer camp and coming back and they were all excited about their experience. And that was an opportunity you missed as a child yourself,
Lots of
which,
opportunities. Yeah,
yeah,
there were lots that I missed. Like I said, calling it underprivileged as opposed to low income, but that's kind of the reality. And you miss out on a lot, or at least perceived you miss out on a lot. There
yeah,
were some experience that maybe it wouldn't have taken me so long to catch up to my peers and grow up.
yeah,
I could have grown up as fast as they did if all the coming of age things were sort of provided. So now that I watch my kids and they're going to want for nothing,
yeah,
I think it's incredibly important for you to give back in whatever capacity. And I know I sound like a broken record of 1,000 mile people because I say it over and over. Whatever the capacity is for you, whether it's time, clothes, money, food, cooking, especially your time. If you can do that, that's your head nod to the universe saying, I'm thankful that I can walk and talk and I have two healthy kids and I have a house to live in. I have a car to drive, regardless of what kinds of things that they are. You have to be thankful for those things. And I feel like what you do for others is your acknowledgement of what you have. So don't take these things from me. I know what I have. I'm giving back in the best way I can.
that's
And
amazing.
if it's kids, they're our future. There are your time and money that you spend to benefit kids is never wasted because it's
Yep,
our future. They're our
yep.
future and they deserve it.
That's awesome. 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 Well, let's share some final thoughts, some final words, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So you go first, and then I'll
Okay,
go
thanks,
after
Tom.
you. So share any final thoughts or any words you have of thank yous, gratitudes to
Yeah.
anybody here who's watching or people who've helped you. Let's go ahead and do that and wrap it up.
Yeah.
So
Well, I just thanks so much for everybody for tuning in and giving some time. I know there's plenty of people that probably didn't have a clue who I was before now. So hopefully we've enlightened you on this really good, organization of the 1,000 Mile and LED and what I'm doing there. But thanks very much. And thanks to, I know that they're on here. I'm sure still Rudy and Christiana. Like I said, it was a life-changing experience. Kyle, he was on my support crew. My husband, who we won't even get into because I'll get emotional again, but who kept me in it and knew how hard mentally he could push me because he's seen it. He's seen me at my worst. So he knew he could be the emotional support. He knew how hard he could push me. And
yeah,
I probably don't say thank you nearly as much as I should because he was an integral part. And this whole thing cast a
awesome,
pretty big shadow that he was very proud to, stand back sort of in the sidelines and allow his wife to go on this journey that I was wanting him to come on. So,
awesome,
I don't say thank you to him nearly enough. But and the people of New Brunswick. So if anybody has never been to New Brunswick or to experience that, it needs to go on your list of places to visit. The people are incredible. They're so kind. They're so welcoming. The welcome that I received from New Brunswick, it will forever be a big part of my life and one of my favorite places to go now. The people are amazing. The amount of people that were out in the streets in the middle of the night and in a snowstorm and had their kids and they were just there for the 30 seconds they saw us to wave and go by. Thank
yeah,
you to all of that and to anyone who supports all the charity and the cause. And hopefully we have lots of new friends out of this that will come on and help us continue doing great things. But stay tuned for all the announcements to come very soon.
awesome,
So
awesome,
thanks, and
awesome.
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure.
Thank you
And
very much.
you've been an amazing guest as well too. And as I wrap it up, you go ahead and just keep hanging on here, and we'll chat again on the backside. For
Sure.
everybody else who's watching, again, if you haven't already, please share this out. This is such an amazing story that I think we need to get out across the world. It's if nothing else, an amazing feel-good story in the snowmobile industry. And I think we can do some amazing things to support Lisa, who is ultimately supporting these children who want to go to summer camp, and also a chance at breaking a potentially a world record this coming season. So if you could do the hat trick of all of that, that would be just amazing. And I wrap up every show by telling everybody, thank you for watching. God bless you and live large. Have an amazing night, and we'll talk to you soon.